what you've seen is a taste of what EagleApps can do. And the name EagleApps it's named EagleApps for a reason, right? And it's all about apps. So we're about to get into some of the architectural overall design of how this is all working. But just to give you an idea, there are a lot of apps being designed, developed, deployed, and tested at Boston College as they speak. As we plan events in the future, we hope and expect to get deeper into some of these functionalities. But just wanted to give you a splash screen of some of the things that are being designed, developed, and deployed around EagleApps. The other thing I want to say is demoing EagleApps is rather difficult, and a lot of work went into coming up with these demos, primarily because the development team is working with live data. In fact, I don't know how and any development team could build an effective student information system platform without using live data, because it's very difficult to simulate data. So they're using live data. They can't demonstrate live data for privacy reasons. So had to do some work to create some fake people. But you know, let it be known that the development team is working with live data at scale, which is an important aspect, I think, of the development process of EagleApps. Next slide, please. When DXtera talks about next generation, we think of various things, and here are some of the aspects of next generation that we're excited about, that we know EagleApps supports. So first of all, we talk about customization. Customization is an important aspect. You've seen a little of it already. I know Tom is going to go into it. The other thing we'll talk about is incremental implementation. One of the nice features of EagleApps, the way it's designed, is it can be brought into an environment, and the various apps and various underlying service components can be implemented incrementally over time to help ease the transition from a legacy system. In fact, that's how Boston College is implementing EagleApps itself. And it's very highly integratable. So we're going to get into these sorts of things in the next few slides. So some graphics. We use this kind of graphic a lot when we talk about next generation application design. And basically, if you look at the top, all those little boxes represent apps, and you've seen a bunch of apps already have been demonstrated. And the box at the bottom represent services that those apps are using. And the lines in the middle are the APIs that the apps use. Every application in EagleApps talks to its underlying service or multiple services via the APIs. And there's no other method for doing that. We try to keep this, well, Boston College and EagleApps tries to keep this separation consistent. Everything DXtera does, we do this. We design the exact same way. A strict separation of concerns between applications and the underlying systems and services that support those applications. And those APIs are designed advanced and modified during the development process as issues arise, as new designs need to be created or altered. Next slide. And the other thing you saw was a little bit of composition. So in the application development environment that Boston College is using, they are also doing application level composition. So basically, functional effects can be created based on the needs of various kinds of users, various kinds of, you know, the old-fashioned word screens to bring together various functionalities. And this is all being done within EagleApps. I think the next slide might be a, yeah. So for instance, here's a managed course. Here's a screen capture of a managed course offering screen. And what Tom did a while back was, for a talking point, was to begin to circle, you know, where in the underlying service architecture is this app talking to get to get its information and to basically fill out this page and make things work. So everything on all the apps the applications that were demonstrated earlier are talking to those underlying services and filling the web page with components of that. Let's move on. And the other thing that the strict adherence to the service interfaces allows is very tightly defined integration points. So EagleApps is designed to integrate. It's designed to integrate with various things. Here are some of the integrations that Boston College is already building as they're deploying EagleApps. But basically, you can imagine the kinds of systems that you're dealing with on your campuses or whatnot need to be integrated. Those integrations all happen via the defined APIs. So everything talks to the backend services via APIs, and integration is no different. I think the next slide shows an example. The BC Student Accounts system being integrated into the EagleApps component environment. Talking to the underlying services to get what it needs to be done. And then basically any of those other integrations, whether it's the workflow or the melded integrations, they're all being done in the same sort of way. Next slide. And of course, this also enables interoperability. So the apps you are seeing are the apps being developed at Boston College. There's no reason why somebody else couldn't come along and create new apps, completely new look and feel to apps and replace them with the apps that Boston College has designed. Again, highly componentized, designed to allow easy flexibility in swapping up components, both at the back end and also at the application front end. So this is something that, as we move forward with DXtera and Boston College, we might find partners who like the EagleApps architectural model, who like the underlying service and the richness of the services provided, but may want to begin building apps that look different. And that's something that's certainly possible within the EagleApps environment. In fact, it was designed to support that kind of development. Next slide. Well, same thing. I think it was meant to be two slides showing the same idea, whether it's a small component or a large component, or if you wanted to swap out the entire EagleApps UI with something different. These are all possible within the architectural model of EagleApps. Next slide. And this fits in. One of the things DXtera published this past year was the integration scorecard. We are looking for products that are integratable and interoperable in these kinds of ways. So for those who are interested in sort of DXtera's take on integration and integrability, we recommend you go to the DXtera site, check out the integration scorecard. It basically says, if you're looking for enterprise products that are highly integratable, it gives some guidelines and very detailed terminology for how you might do that. EagleApps, if we actually took the scorecard and completely applied it to EagleApps, it would be a very high, it would rate very highly on that scorecard. Next. So I can turn it over to Tom, who's going to talk a little bit more about some of the next generation qualities of EagleApps.
Okay. I think I still stay on these slides. My name is Tom Coppeto. I've been on EagleApps since Boston College started it up after a quality student, and I also have a role at the DXtera Institute. And there we go. Before I actually get into that, the whole DXtera Next Generation by design, Jeff talked about some of the interoperability, and I sort of want to give you a flavor for how it is that somebody were to take EagleApps, how to maybe different ways of thinking about its implementation, and give you a taste of some of ways it could be customized and configured. So there's a lot here. I'm going to fly by very quickly and just to give you a taste of what EagleApps is capable of. So incremental implementation, if somebody were to try to set up, configure, install, populate EagleApps all in one shot, I think it would be I can't even imagine what that project would look like, actually. So how do we get pieces of it and kind of creep our way in? And this is actually something, an implementation path, not unlike what Boston College went through. Jeff talked about that we have these APIs that bind apps to services. Those APIs, the code that's underneath them, they could be implemented using not only a variety of technologies, but they could be implemented directly to access information off a legacy student system. So if we have an academic record set of APIs, we can implement that right off the legacy SIS. And now immediately what that enables is we can take EagleApps applications that talk to the academic record service and start using them. Whether it's a transcript generation or looking at part of the student information applications, plural, that Jen Mack was demoing earlier, a lot of that becomes enabled. And this is actually what Boston College did to actually support its new student account system while we had still using the mainframe here at Boston College. We can keep going with that theme that we can take these service contract APIs and we can take maybe something like the curriculum and implement that against a legacy system, while maybe using that to, populate, that arrow looks like it's in the wrong direction, sorry about that, populate maybe the EagleApps implementations of that course system, and as a way of migrating data from one to the other. And once we have that, then we can get into some of the things that Dan Higgins was demoing and enabling some of that functionality, kind of creeping our way along by using the service contract APIs against our legacy systems and trying to use that to bootstrap ourselves piece by piece when we're ready into the EagleApps environment. Okay. And let me pop out of the slides here a little bit, and hopefully my browser back here is still doing its thing. So this is actually Dan Higgins gave you a little flavor of the course offerings, and apparently I have a list of history courses in the spring of 2021. I'm going to do a little view detail here, and you see some information about the different fields inside that course. Course term, code, subject area. Maybe some people don't call it subject area. Maybe somebody else wants to call it something else. But when you inherit an application that was written in another place and you want to kind of call some things a little differently or customize that, EagleApps has a built-in way of doing that. And that is our metadata here. And so I went to an application and sorry, Norm, it doesn't work for me to kind of leapfrog there from the other app, so I just set it up in advance. But you'll see some of the fields here that we were looking at, corex, course code, course, and let's say I do not wish to call that code, I wish to call that Fred. And tighten the save button on me, there we go. And I come back here to manage course offering and view detail, and lo and behold, my course code is now called Fred. Just a little taste of that in terms of the metadata system. It actually goes on and on and on and enables us to configure constraints and also implement dynamic rules on the fly. Dan was showing you some of that when he was creating a course offering, and some of the things coming through the metadata system were pulling in information from the course catalog. Excuse me here. All right, now we'll close that. Another important aspect of the configurability of the system, Dan listed lecture and discussion group as two kinds of sections, or what EagleApps calls activity offerings underneath. And these are the typing system is another important way that some of the basic entities or objects in the system can kind of be brought home, and you can create different kinds of things. And here's a list of different kinds of activity offering types, not just lecture, but we have laboratories, discussion groups, advanced placements, studios, thesis, tutorial, and so forth. And so we would come into the type system, create a new type of activity offering, and then I would expect to come back to the course offering and be able to create new activity offerings of that type. That is also linked to the metadata here, because then on that new type you can create specific metadata, either the way it should be displayed or how that information or that data should be constrained, and link that directly to the new type that you created. So some really cool stuff here. Dan showed you earlier a little bit of a taste that there's a menuing system. We actually are now working on different ways of rendering the menu data, because the menu is actually backed by another service. And so we actually have a way to come in and change that on the fly. If I didn't like the advising thing, oops, edit me. Oh, is it not working for me now? Oh, I hate doing these demos on the fly. I can't edit. Oh, we'll move on. Oh, there it is. I'm sorry. It scrolled up. My screen is of an odd size here. So let me do that again. So it should have zapped me there. But if I want to change the, I know this is we're going to wish Tom a farewell. But if I wanted to do that here, reload that. And there we go. We have Tom Brady in our top level menu in our advising section. We have different navigational systems linked to what we call an experience, and these are basically roles. You see we have a whole hodgepodge of different roles here, including our developers, but we might have one set of applications composed for somebody who's an administrator of the Student Services Department. We might have another set of applications composed for somebody who works in a specific department, or a faculty member, or even a student. And so we're able to take different discrete applications and then link them together into one comprehensive system with the same look and feel through the menuing system. And these are really what's underneath all of this, is that EagleApps is a rules-based system. We talk a lot about services, and we all think a lot in terms of data, but the intelligence comes from the rules. And this is just a little flavor of some of the rules that we have. We insist that rules are named, we can see them, we can manipulate them, and not just kind of buried in code. Where we kind of don't know what's going on. We can't turn them on or off, or apply them or reuse them in different circumstances. So let me just give you a little flavor of what I mean by that. When registering for a class, and whether it's the administrator registering a student or a student doing self-registration, there are going to be a set of checks, a set of rules that are going to be verified here. And that is managed in a service called the process service. And here it is. I just brought up all of the rules that are checked. Okay, not all of them are active right now in development, and some are active, and these can be reordered. They can be applied to different populations of people. We can apply one set of rules for freshmen and another one for varsity athletes, maybe a different one for international students. So you can see all of the rules named here. And Dan also earlier showed you those little flags next to the course offerings. Now these are these little circles over here, what we call indicators. And indicators are just another form of rule in the system that we can manipulate. And users can come through the indicator UI. So let me There is a lot of course offering indicators here, but let me do manage indicators off of course offering. And so here are all of the things that Dan has configured to pop up here if any of things evaluate to true, such as give us a flag that's cross-listed, or give us another flag if it's used as a prerequisite in another course. So I'll stop here. I just wanted everyone to understand that EagleApps is not designed for one set of business rules or one specific set of requirements. It's meant to be customized, service implementations are meant to be replaced, and rules are meant to be managed.